These are the 7 biggest mistakes supplement brands are actually doing from a creative strategy point when they're trying to scale, and things that I see every time when I audit a supplement brand. Most times there's going to be one of these mistakes that the brand is actually doing. I had a chance to audit and actually work with a lot of 7 to 8 figure supplement brands recently, and health and wellness brands overall. And again, this is again what I see actively auditing a lot of accounts every week and manage more than 100 million in my career in ad spend, and currently actually spending anywhere from 5 to 10 million per month across accounts. So we're gonna dive deeper. If you're a supplement brand owner or basically someone who is operating a kind of D2C brand anyway, this is gonna be very, very applicable to you. These are gonna be some creative strategy mistakes that I see, a lot of brands do besides of the supplements, but I think supplement brands specifically, just because they have been, accustomed to a way to kind of scale. They used to obviously be successful in the past. They still follow key mistakes in terms of the creative strategy, and then down the line with the account structure as well. If you're new to the channel, my name is Harry. I've been a growth strategist for over 8 years, and I've managed more than 100 million and I scale brands with paid media, strategy, creative direction, creative strategy, and overall growth strategy as well. By the way, you can get some free creative winning frameworks that I have across all my experience below, completely for free below, so feel free to check them out. Now, let's actually dive into the video. And number one mistake that I see is really, I think this is one of the core mistakes. I think brands, especially supplement brands, again, like I mentioned, they have been accustomed in a way to scale. They used to work in the past, but now it just doesn't. Mistake number one is one awareness stage only. Now, slightly over exaggerating about one awareness. Obviously, most of them obviously will have a couple. But the key thing to understand is they're really focusing on that bottom funnel product to even maybe solution aware segments. So the first 2 or 3 stages of awareness, where they're naturally a lot more bottom funnel, a lot of retargeting heavy, and they're trying to scale. And this is literally most of my accounts, most of the accounts that I audit, they hit a certain point that they can't scale past that. And the thing is maybe an issue with the targeting strategy, with the media buying strategy. Sometimes they also see that it's just an issue with creative volume, which to an extent maybe it is, but usually is that they're not being very strategic in terms of how they approach creative strategy overall, and they need to start expanding the messaging to match higher funnel awareness stages. So basically they kind of hold the people into the funnel. And I think most brands get used to the notion that they lead with the product. They have a very bold headline in terms of static, over-indexing statics. They're really focusing on the product itself as a focal frame. And this is usually not the case to actually scale from a top of funnel perspective. Every ad jumps straight to the product specs, buy now. And I think it's this for people who don't even know they have a problem yet. Or maybe to that problem aware segment, which usually it's big enough to get people to make 5K per day plus, especially in the US. But even then, they don't crack the right kind of things. They don't focus on cracking these specific funnel stages, and they keep hammering the solution and product aware kind of stages. And why it matters? Because you're only really harvesting 3% of who the overall market consists of. So most aware people who are basically ready to buy right now, and they can see you're basically selling maybe a nootropic supplement, and you basically maybe have better packaging, maybe you have a better price, maybe you have some affiliation with any kind of influencer, and they're ready to buy from you as well. Never see a magic message. So CAC climbs as the small bottom funnel pool saturates. So what I see is they try to scale and they get that CAC which incrementally increases. And again, like I mentioned, the thing is basically an issue with the media buyer, with the agency or whatever that is, which maybe it is to an extent, but usually is that they don't have a proper consistent winning theme and kind of engine that gets those new winners into kind of testing, essentially. How these can be fixed very easily. Build a ladder across 5 awareness stages. So what I see successful supplement brands doing, they really agitate the problem and they really lead with those, problem-oriented hooks overall. Obviously, as you get to the unaware stage, you need to be more focused on storytelling, which is a bit challenging, but also very rewarding, because then you can attract people who have a quiet ice cold, and you can get them to the funnel, and this is how you scale. So build a system to actually get a more diversity from an awareness stage perspective, so you can start hitting and expanding, scaling your messaging. For example, here's a top funnel example. Nobody told me brain fog at 35 wasn't normal. bottom of funnel, 20% of magnesium L, whatever it is. Most accounts only ever run the second, and this is actually a true example that I put from an example account. Now, mistake number 2. This is a bit more advanced, but I really like this because I think not a lot of people actually use it across the board. So just, with some brands, but in general, they think about, like, you need to start thinking about the 4 emotional zones that people are in at any given moment. And these are essentially what's the emotional state that our people, our consumers, the prospects that we're going to obviously best to kind of add to them, what is the exact mental and emotional state at the moment. So there's basically 4 zones here. There's obviously quite a few emotions. There are 4 key ones. Is the calm and kind of positive. The 2 is the subtle negative. So someone who's obviously subtle negative, the kind of subtle negative state that they are, the actual negative, and the more excited version of them. So you can see there's different ways essentially that you can speak to that exact person at the different stages that they're in. And what this exactly is the kind of 4. And basically, like, the way you speak is going to be completely different, and we're going to go into some examples here. And the mistake that I see with most brands, not just supplements, but supplements I think even more due to the nature of like being very, very monotonous anyway in the overall creative strategy, is the large spend, probably like 90+%, is going to be at one emotional zone. So you can see you can easily diversify your creative strategy by bringing in another emotional zone. So basically what happens, the mistake here is every ad lives in the same emotion register. Or fear, or an energy, or hype and excitement. You're going to see how you can start bringing into different ways here into the overall mix. So what does matter? Buyers obviously are all in the same headspace. Someone who is going to be drawn into a more agency-led kind of messaging is going to obviously get the purchase. You're obviously going to get the purchase if you speak to the customer the way that he would like to actually be spoken to. And this is also the fastest route to creative fatigue, because it just won't land the same as you expand again into cold audiences, because obviously there's a lot of different people that will obviously going to be drawn into excitement rather than actually that calm, very, very kind of tone especially. So how you can fix this, deliberately start thinking about, do a bit of an audit of your account, where I'm kind of over indexing into those zones. Again, high energy, inspiration, calm confidence, exhaustion, urge and alarm. These are the 4 key ones. There's obviously more than that as well. And start tracking performance by zone. You can start also adding into the naming conventions, so you get a clear picture, especially as you test more stuff, and get a few reports, especially on your spend breakdown. An example: your zones are aging faster than you are. Calm confidence: I quietly started slipping through the night again. Same product, opposite headspace. So you can see there's a completely different messaging here. One more negative, one more calm positive. And obviously it's going to be attracting different segments of the audience as well. Now, mistake number 3. A lot of brands are doing this mistake. It's not enough education. I mean, some of the most scaled creatives around education, especially as you start scaling, again, you need to kind of attract those cold audiences. People will need to be educated. They need to, even if you sell a very, I guess, mainstream kind of solution, let's say that you sell a protein powder, you still need to differentiate yourself against your competitors in the market. And the only way you can do this is like through education around how you're different, what's the different ingredients that you guys have compared to other protein powders, what's the different kind of lab tests that you have actually done. So educating around how this really ties into your product, each ingredient, and how this is something that is not in the market. Maybe you have creatine and you have the purest creatine, for example, or high quality creatine, and you can easily compare that. But people will need to go through an education process so they can actually buy and they can actually be confident that you can actually build that trust. So as explained what ashwagandha or magnesium glycinate does in general, but never why the formulation is different from the other 40 bottles on the same ingredient. And you will obviously why it matters. The more generic that we are with our messaging, the less effective obviously our ad is. So the more specific that we can be, and usually, especially in the supplement space, just due to competitiveness and how saturated the market is, you need to stand apart. And how you stand is through being authentic, educating, be quite clear about your ingredients, and not just making those claims. Again, how you can fix this, start thinking about what are the key unique selling points that I can start bringing into the forefront of our creative, so we can start educating first, then introducing the solution, which is obviously our product, and how we're going to obviously tie this together. Again, this is just an example. Strong, most ashwagandha is dosed 300 milligrams. Our 600 milligram, the exact dose used in the clinical trials. You can see this completely different message. And obviously this is a very simple example. You can take this to whatever you want, especially if you have the means to get there, essentially. Mistake number 4, no macro and micro persona strategy. I say this again all the time, is brands, especially brands, health and wellness brands overall, due to the product, again, being most of the time either something very close to the competition or something, they just don't have a very specific persona strategy. They think, for example, my customer is a gym goer. Let's say you have a creatine product, where in actuality they need to start going deeper on who exactly the brand is for, because someone, yes, maybe the overall persona, the macro persona, the top level can be someone who goes to the gym, but this can be very quickly mapped into more specific personas, but also micro personas. So the gym goer can be a woman, for example, who kind of started out going to the gym, someone, an experienced lifter who wants to take the extra 5% from creatine, or maybe just a general a woman who just doesn't even go to the gym but has seen the recent benefits of creatine around brain function, and we can actually speak to that specific demographic. So completely different way that we can attract our people, and you can see how easily we can get into net new audience as well. And I think this is something that again goes back to my previous point, the more specific that we can be to who we're targeting, to a very specific messaging that ties in a very cohesive way to the landing page, is how we basically scale. 2-3 micro personas, macro personas, and really go very deep into thinking about who they are, what they do, what are the kind of narratives that they have, maybe from the societal world with other brands and other kind of experience that they have with very similar products. And again, here's an example as well. The macro, the burnout professional. Micro one can be the postpartum and exhausted kind of professional, or micro 2, optimizing before it's a problem, the aspiration driven, for example. But again, I think this is not a great example as well. This could be even more niched in terms of who exactly is. So for example, this could be let's say that you sell a nootropics supplement, or maybe a more healthy energy drink. You can really direct it to busy professionals, but it can also direct it to parents who usually they feel that after the work they just don't have that energy. So you can see how specific we can be, how we can attract a very targeted demographic that is hungry for our products and really make the progress that we need. Now, mistake number 5, hooks, skip persona callouts, event agitation. This is again building on what we just discussed. I think once you get clear on your persona strategy, you need to then go into specific concepts, specific hooks. And I think overall supplements, again, they either start with very bottom funnel kind of hooks or very product specific hooks. And I think what I've seen the most success is leading with a pain, agitating that pain, having a nice bridge into the person or the creator or the hero of that, going through a bit of a research / epiphany kind of process, and then introducing our solution. So naturally our ad builds through most of the funnel stages essentially. So it starts with very maybe problem aware, and it goes into solution aware, product aware, and the most aware as well. And that's when we can have a more warm prospect that we can obviously buy of an ad essentially. So the mistake that I see is hooks being very generic, tired of feeling tired, feeling tired all of the time. And instead of naming a very specific person and situation, and then the skip agitating the pain before offering the relief. So obviously why it matters, because we need to get people to resonate. That's how we make a winning ad. We need to make people who resonate with a very specific hook or a very specific messaging. So how we can fix this? Open with the name identity plus specific sensory trigger, moment, and then agitate it, and then pivot to relief. Example. For the moms who's had 3 coughs by 10 a.m. and still can't focus in the pickup line. This is a very specific kind of call out. Now, obviously, again, maybe you don't phrase like that, and it doesn't mean that you need every single time to call out moms or any kind of specific persona, but you can speak to a very specific demographic by maybe even describing a very specific situation that they're in. Like the previous example that I mentioned around It can be, again, just, maybe you can start off like when you come back in home and you're feeling tired. Do you feel that you need something to get the energy that you need to kind of play with your kids? So we obviously didn't kind of mention that you're a parent, but at the same time we clearly articulated what they're going through. So that's exactly the same thing into calling out the persona. It doesn't mean that we need to speak exactly and mention that in our hooks, because I see people also getting into the other spectrum, that they're trying to get every hook to be busy moms or whatever that is. Now, number 6, no whitelisting and brand only creative. Huge one, especially again with the competitiveness and saturation in the market. We need to get whitelisting ads to work. This is something that I see across the board. Some of my most successful accounts have more than 30% on the ad spend running behind whitelisting. And why it matters, so basically, people are more inclined to buy if they come through a creator profile, a micro creator profile, or even like an influencer, like a very big identity that they can relate to. This is something that is a quick win. Everyone should be doing this and have a few creators maybe that they work with, or they can get whitelisting action going into the account. Mistake that I also see here is all creative. Usually, I think recently, obviously, everyone has some UGC element. I'm mostly talking about a quick fix to potentially some brands really trying hard to get whitelisting, but they can't actually make it. Is using third-party pages and third-party funnels. So you can see a lot of supplement brands and really successful supplement brands. What they do is they have maybe like a third-party Facebook page called the Supplement Reviewer or something like that. That is basically like a third party. It doesn't come through the branding profile, but it's obviously a fabricated page and a website that then goes into a landing page that obviously someone reviews some of the supplements and then obviously picks your own supplement as the main one. So this is a bit indirect. This is very effective as you scale, but I thought to put this here because I think this is something that I see being very successful. And I think this is an easy way to kind of like surpass whitelisting. You can start running through third-party pages and then direct either to the product page or to the main landing page, and with a bit more generic landing page, like a listicle, maybe educating around why they need that X amount of ashwagandha or something like that. And then there's a bit of education that if you couple that with the creative, it can really be very, very effective. Now, that was the video for today. Now, these are the top 7 mistakes that I see supplement brands make. Now, if you're a supplement brand and you want to do a full creative audit and install my creative intelligence system into your brand, or just do an overall paid media growth audit, click the link below and book a call with me. If you're not interested in that, also have a look at the links below. If you are basically anyone who wants to scale on meta ads and kind of scale the kind of brand with proven creative strategy, there's some free resources in the description that hopefully are quite helpful from your end. So yeah, thanks for watching this video and I'll see you in the next one.